Welcome to Hero Villains. Thank you for always watching and supporting the channel. Who do you think would win in a battle between Cyttorak or Dormammu? When two mystical powers collide. Cyttorak is an ancient entity, once worshipped as a god on Earth and now reigning in the Crimson Cosmos. He possesses almost limitless mystical power, manifested through the Crimson Bands of Cyttorak, one of the most powerful magics ever used by Doctor Strange. He is also the source of Juggernaut's power, granting him invincibility and unstoppability. Cyttorak is not only a source of magic, but also the pure embodiment of raw primal power. Dormammu is a lord of the dark dimension, born from the pure energy Faltine. He defeated the ancient entities and took over the dark dimension, where he ruled as a god. Dormammu can control reality magic, manipulate souls, time, and even go toe-to-toe with the Ancient One or Doctor Strange without flinching. Cunning, ruthless, and able to absorb other dimensions, he is every wizard's nightmare. Before we dive into the analysis, please hit the subscribe button, and remember to turn on notifications by clicking the bell icon. Thank you very much. Cyttorak has long been considered one of the most difficult entities to pin down in terms of power. Legend has it that he once confronted the Vishanti. A mystical and demonic Lord Cyttorak reached the height of his power when he was present in his own dimension, where his energies were amplified to their maximum. There, he claimed to be able to seal or even neutralize the power of the Phoenix, but he himself admitted that this would be impossible if he were to confront the full power of the Phoenix outside of his own dimension. Despite his near-limitless powers, even when incarnated as a giant wearing a helmet, he was defeated by the Juggernaut, to whom he had given his powers in a direct confrontation, and could be ranked alongside Mephisto, Satanish, and other ancient demonic entities. However, Cyttorak is no match for Galactus in his full power, much less the Phoenix Force when it reaches its full power. Nor is he superior to members of the supreme power group, the Octessence, who coexist with him in the ancient mystics system. Whenever he appears in the physical realm, space seems to warp, the sky glows blood red, and the earth shatters under his power without warning. Though never the ultimate cosmic force, Cyttorak is a pillar in the realm between gods and demons, one that makes even powerful magicians wary when he speaks his name. Cyttorak, the ancient demon, exists in the blood-scorched Crimson Cosmos, and possesses the ability to wield mystical power. Cyttorak can telepathically call upon souls thirsting for power, drawing them like moths to a flame, and thereby bend their wills to his own ends. He can teleport anyone out of his dimension or back, dragging lost souls and forms into the Crimson Cosmos, where all the laws of physics are crushed beneath his heel. Cyttorak can replicate himself, duplicating his own form to appear in multiple places at once, wreaking terror across the landscape. He has created crimson beast-like machines of destruction, ranging from small entities that act as vanguards to colossal monsters that can flatten entire cities with a single swipe. One of Cyttorak's most terrifying abilities is the ability to bestow the invincible will, the essence of the Juggernaut's power, upon another worthy being if the incarnation serving him betrays that trust. In the event that Marco Caine loses his allegiance, Cyttorak can instantly transfer that energy to a new person, allowing the destruction to continue without interruption. Cyttorak continues to wreak havoc. The space around him seems to vibrate. Crimson magic rips through the air, and the ground melts under the weight of ancient power. In his battle with the immortal Iron Fist, Cyttorak proves himself to be a true warrior, with physical strength on par with the gods of war. The power he transfers to Juggernaut turns Marco into an unstoppable, nearly invulnerable tornado. Not only that, Cyttorak himself is also imbued with one of the most powerful spells in Doctor Strange's magical repertoire, the Crimson Bands of Cyttorak, for binding and restraining with primal energy. Every time this spell is chanted, his name echoes through the void, the aspect of Cyttorak that traps Sprite, sister of another lord of the underworld, Despair, Cyttorak. He once channeled the power of Avatar Amit Abdal to such an extent that the world seemed to shake to its very foundations. The power that radiated from Amit Abdal, when blessed by Cyttorak, was described as so great that the stars trembled, as if the celestial bodies themselves felt his presence. Cyttorak also granted Caine Marco the power to rival the World War Hulk, one of the most destructive beings to ever walk the earth. When imbued with the full power of Cyttorak, Marco became virtually invincible. invincible. No member of the X-Men could harm him, and Marco easily defeated Colossus even when he was wielding the Juggernaut energy in the name of Cyttorak himself. Cyttorak's creative abilities were beyond imagination. He created entities described as ecstatic goblins, strange forms with a fantastical appearance but hidden destructive power. Cyttorak also used a prototype variant of the Crimson Ribbon to trap Nova, a lightspeed entity, and completely suppress the freedom of those considered the fastest and strongest. The Crimson Ribbons created by Cyttorak were so powerful that Zom, an ancient and destructive entity, had to resort to Cyttorak's identity to summon that power. It was Cyttorak who controlled the ribbons that Doctor Strange had summoned, and he used them to strike back, trapping the Sorcerer Supreme within his own spell. When the Seraphim attempted to pull Strange out of Cyttorak's dimension, he sealed off all escape routes, choking off any attempts at outside interference. Cyttorak once withstood a direct attack from Watum, an ancient magical entity revered by many mages across dimensions. Cyttorak even coldly declared that if necessary, he would destroy all remaining members of the Octessence, fellow entities that once coexisted in the early magic. Cyttorak fears no one of his level and will crush any barrier if his power is threatened. Cyttorak is one of the most powerful Lords of Hell and is very close to the throne of Satan. Lords of Fear pictured include Suma Gorath, Blackheart, Despair, Asmodeus, Adversary, Astaroth, Dormammu, Marduk Kurios, Satanish, Olivier, Malanche, Kazan, Stone Cold, Asmodire, Deboya, Sliggith, Damballa, Chaos, Big Mother, Avarish, Dagon, Darklove, Demogorge, Nikon, and even CTHO. Cyttorak is on par with other Lords of Hell. Lords of Hell like Dormammu are on par with Zeus and Odin. Not sure if Cyttorak has any weaknesses. The only weakness I can think of is possibly a weakness. Maybe Cyttorak can be defeated in one's mind. If one's will is strong enough to resist Cyttorak, Cyttorak is a very powerful entity. Cyttorak at its peak is a real beast. I really hope you subscribe to the channel, it helps us a lot, and you are the best. Thank you very much. Dormammu is one of the greatest forces of evil in the universe. A malevolent, cosmic entity with a cruel lust for conquest and domination, Dormammu uses his extra-dimensional abilities to invade and attack realms and worlds on every plane of existence. Dormammu is a Faltine, an extra-dimensional energy born of pure magic, and is one of the most powerful beings to have ever existed. Having existed for over millennia, Dormammu, at the height of his power, was no longer simply a dark lord but a symbol of power beyond the divine. He has been described as being on par with Zeus and Odin, two of the supreme gods of the great mythologies. However, that is only the beginning. In later stages, Dormammu not only expressed his ambition to challenge the gods of order, but also declared that he would destroy them all, including Odin, and reach for a higher goal to defeat the Celestials, the beings who wielded the power of creation. Dormammu absorbed both the power and essence of his sister Umar and his ally Mordo, creating an eternal amplifier. His body, restructured from the combination of these two mystical energies, constantly multiplied and expanded like an unlimited storm of magic. He became almost unstoppable, and whenever he appeared, space seemed to crack. The sky turned a dark purple haze, and every step echoed with groans from the invisible realm. Dormammu's peak power is also evident in the storyline related to the 691 timeline. Here, he not only defeated, but also absorbed his future self, leaving no limits on his energy or will. Doctor Strange and Mordo used the energy of his past version of Dormammu from the 62nd to remove the influence of the 82nd Dormammu who was occupying the body of the sorcerer Crowler. Dormammu's power grows over time, and each time he returns, he becomes more powerful than before, not only in terms of energy, but also in his ability to manipulate the nature of reality. Dormammu is not a foe that can be defeated once. He is an indestructible darkness, a threat that recurs periodically each time it rises, causing the entire multiverse to tremble. This is why Dormammu becomes more powerful in the dark dimension. Anyway, let's look at his origins. Dormammu cannot die. Every time that happens, his essence is reborn in the dark dimension by his servants and brought into the core of the earth to grow. It's safe to say Dormammu knows every spell that Strange knows because he took control of Steven's body in DSSS number 2 and learned, became everything that Steven used to be. Dormammu is immune to Strange and his reality warping abilities, as well as the Sorcerer's Hat, which can hurt opponents. He can also use non-verbal magic, but that's no big deal. Dormammu is the embodiment of a power that blends the mystical and the cosmic. With a simple snap of his fingers, he can extract the life energy from others and mold them into loyal minions, creating dark entities that are chaotic in nature and obey absolute command. During a confrontation with Doctor Strange, Dormammu not only demonstrated the ability to restructure his body at will, but also to reverse all physical changes on himself. Doctor Strange once warned Thor that physical attacks, even from the god of thunder, would be meaningless against an entity of an immaterial nature like Dormammu. Not only possessing ancient mystical energy, Dormammu also demonstrated access to cosmic power, although the specific level has not been fully determined. Yet he once stripped Thor of his divinity in a moment, causing Mjolnir to vanish from existence as if it had never existed. And Iron Man's advanced armor was also completely erased, all with a gentle wave of his hand. Without a sound, without a flash of lightning. Dormammu once created a viscous rain like glue, falling in slow motion through space, paralyzing and completely neutralizing the Scarlet Witch's magic. Dormammu sealed the Eye of Agamotto in absolute darkness, an act that goes against the nature of the pure light that this treasure represents. What is amazing is that the light from the eye has defeated dark lords like Nightmare, an entity that spreads terror in dreams, and once allowed Doctor Strange to transcend the limits of time to reach the eternities. Dormammu can also completely destroy enemies with a single burst of energy. In a fierce battle, he fired a red ray of magic that burned an anti-magic knight who possessed the ability to absorb and reflect all types of magic to ashes in an instant. Even Doctor Strange himself was almost killed by that warrior if it weren't for Dormammu's timely intervention. Dormammu controls the Dark Dimension. He is the Dark Dimension in his true form and can control it. Mephisto, one of the most fearsome lords of hell, once admitted that Dormammu could completely erase Asgard in an instant and destroy all the rulers of the Hell Realms. No one would be strong enough to resist. During his existence of billions of years, Dormammu has faced eternity, the embodiment of the entire universe, 3 times. Although he was defeated by Galactus in an enhanced state in an instant, that did not obscure his terrible nature. In his rage, he once shook the entire Dark Dimension as if the space itself were disintegrating under the pressure of his uncontrolled anger. Dormammu once sealed away Gaia, one of the Earth's primordial elder gods, suffocating her abilities within the very energy domain she protected. He also turned the Hulk, the symbol of uncontrollable physical power, into an immovable crystal, sealing the source of his anger forever like a silent statue in the darkness. It is no coincidence that all the lords of hell fear his name. This fear comes not from legend, but from the reality of the countless massacres and conquests that Dormammu has left in his wake. It is rumored that Dormammu once used a giant chessboard made of dark energy to simulate and destroy entire galaxies as if it were a game. Each of his moves represents the collapse of a world, and each piece represents a dimension crushed by an invisible hand. His every word becomes law. His every thought can reshape reality itself. There is no concept of limits, for his power is amplified by the faith and fear of those who kneel before the Dark Throne. Cyttorak is an ancient and powerful magical entity, a force that is not simply violent but also has the ability to control souls and the essence of existence. With his power, Cyttorak even neutralized Nightmare, the Lord of the Nightmare Realm, when he was enhanced with the energy of the Eternal. Even Onslaught had to be wary of Cyttorak. Onslaught could not destroy Juggernaut, simply because the power of Cyttorak covered Marco like a divine armor, making him an impenetrable mass of power. Cyttorak once stopped a giant entity of the nature of oblivion. Cyttorak once appeared in a neutral space near Dormammu's throne, which is considered the intersection of the underworld. In this realm, the dark forces do not fight but observe each other, maintaining a dangerous balance. When standing near Dormammu's throne, Cyttorak could not overwhelm, for Dormammu was not only the ruler of the Dark Dimension, but the very embodiment of it. Within that realm, every rock, every layer of black mist, every strand of energy was a manifestation of Dormammu's will. Cyttorak's presence, however powerful, was but an external entity entering the inner realm. Likewise, within Cyttorak's own separate dimension of the Crimson Cosmos, all other forces would be rendered powerless. The entities that had subdued other dimensions were rendered mute by the primal power emanating from that very burning realm. If they had created a projection into the mortal realm to settle this matter fairly, honestly, it would probably have been a draw. Juggernaut's power set means we can assume that Cyttorak will be more physical, while Dormammu will probably rely more on magic. The thing is, Cyttorak is probably resistant to magic, and Dormammu is probably no slouch in combat either. In a neutral space battle, Dormammu's mystical powers and immense reality manipulation abilities will likely give him the advantage. While Cyttorak is extremely powerful and nearly invincible physically, Dormammu's ability to manipulate reality and wield power on a cosmic scale will give him a significant advantage. Therefore, Dormammu will most likely win this encounter. I hope you enjoy this fight. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Follow me if you like. That's it for today's video. Thanks a lot.